Good morning. We begin with breaking news. An earthquake in Victoria. Here is what we know so far. A magnitude 6 earthquake was felt just after 9 o'clock this morning near Mansfield, which is in regional Victoria. The tremors were felt right across Melbourne and the regional parts of that state, also as far away as Canberra, Sydney, Adelaide and Tasmania. A second magnitude 4 quake was recorded about 15 minutes later, around 9:30, and there are warnings of more aftershocks to come. There is no tsunami threat at this stage, and this is the largest on-land earthquake recorded in Australia since 1997. We are going to go to some of the worst pictures we have seen so far of the damage this morning. The shots are from the Chapel Street area in South Yarra, where there has been widespread damage done this morning. We will go to those shots as soon as we get them. There they are. That is the Betty's Burgers restaurant there in South Yarra. That is a normally very busy area on Chapel Street. It would have been normally teeming with people out and about this morning were it not for the lockdown that Melbourne is in. So that is what we are seeing. That is where the most damage has been recorded so far this morning. As I said, that earthquake hit around 9:15 this morning. A second weaker tremor was felt at around 9:30 this morning. As I said, the epicentre of this earthquake this morning was in Mansfield in regional Victoria, and that is where we will take you now. Let's go to Alice Walker, who is a resident of Mansfield. Alice, you felt the tremor there this morning. Let us know what happened.
Yeah, we sure did. We were just sort of tidying up the house and all of a sudden we heard a really loud noise. Sounded like an aeroplane to me. We thought maybe it was sort of coming towards us. It was pretty scary. We live right at the top of a hill. So, the house was shaking. We ran out to grab the kids and we had no idea what was going on.
And Alice, any damage at your place?
No, we've got no damage at all, which is good. My husband built our house, so we're pretty thrilled with his efforts, to give him a bit more credit.
And so you felt the first quake. You felt the second one as well? What was the sort of distance between the two?
For us, we just felt one really big quake. We haven't sort of felt any aftershocks or anything like that. Just one really big noise. And
I guess the news would have spread pretty quickly around Mansfield. What have your friends and neighbours had to say?
Yeah, well, we haven't gone into town yet. We've just had so many messages from friends and family checking in, making sure that we're all okay, which is really kind. Thank you. We'll go into town soon and see what it's like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alice Walker, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's hope the damage is confined to what we've seen so far. But Alice, thank you so much for your time this afternoon and your insight into that earthquake earlier this morning. Chris O'Keefe joins me on the desk. Chris, this is not really what Melbourne was expecting this morning. Those pictures out of South Yarra are incredible, and I guess were it not for the lockdown, we might have seen a few more injuries. Yeah,
it was what we know so far is that there haven't been any injuries or any deaths reported all across the southeast of the country, because we know it was felt in Sydney, Canberra and all the way down to Launceston and places like that in Tasmania. So while it started in the Victorian Alps, in that Alpine region in Mansfield where Alice was speaking from, it's obviously the earthquake itself, a magnitude 5.8 earthquake, is a significant one. Now, we know that the aftershocks, the Prime Minister spoke from Washington, D.C. probably about half an hour ago, and he said the aftershocks, there's been 3 of them at 5.5, 4 and 4. So these aftershocks in and of themselves are pretty strong. And if you want a comparison to this, back in 1989 in Newcastle, that was a 5.6 earthquake. So the one that Melbourne is experiencing or has experienced this morning is a stronger earthquake than what was experienced in Newcastle. And that was one that left 13 people dead and caused $4.6 billion worth of damage. So we can expect to see, I think, across regional Victoria and parts of the southeast of the country, other issues with some structural damage to buildings, I'm sure. And I know that just in Sydney, Fire and Rescue New South Wales has been dispatched to suburbs at Alexandria, Dubbo, Merimbula. So we're looking at Hornsby and Manly too. So, you know, this has been felt all across the southeast of Australia. And while we are seeing this is the major picture that we've seen this morning in South Yarra at Chapel Street, there is no doubt that there will be other buildings across Melbourne specifically that have been damaged.
Absolutely, Chris. And that looks like a pretty sturdy building that's been standing for a long time in Melbourne. So you'd have to think there will be further damage. I mean, I've had friends who've messaged me from Wagga who felt the tremors earlier this morning, Dubbo as well. So it is certainly widespread. And the shocks were felt as the earthquake was felt inside the ABC studios in Melbourne. They were broadcasting their breakfast program at the time. Let's take a look at that.
Earthquake or a structural thing?
I don't know, but...
I don't know.
Let's go.
No, it really was...
Yeah, that was a big one.
It's still going.
That's still tremoring. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can see the flaps moving.
Yeah, so that was around 9:15 this morning, live as ABC Breakfast was on air. You can clearly see how rattled they were by that earthquake. It is a rare occurrence, Chris, that we do see earthquakes, particularly in the southeast of Australia. It's not known for its earthquakes, and particularly one of this magnitude. As we said, it is the strongest magnitude quake that has been recorded on the Australian mainland since 1997. A magnitude 5.8 quake, the epicentre around Mansfield, about 10 kilometres below the surface. And it does, where the quakes do strike and how much damage they cause is widely determined by how deep they are, and that one at 10 kilometres deep is a relatively shallow quake. I guess the lucky thing is that Mansfield is in a regional part of the state, not a lot of buildings, pretty sparse population out there as well.
Absolutely, and I think what you've seen around Melbourne, what we saw in the ABC studios was felt in the 3AW studios. Tony Jones, our colleague, was on air this morning, and he said he was saying on air he felt the desk shaking and the building shaking around him. I know Neri Tai, another one of our 9 News colleagues, posted something on social media that all the indoor plants in her apartment were shaking uncontrollably too. It's quite a frightening experience. I've never experienced it myself, but even you just look at what we saw in New Zealand a few years ago in Christchurch, and when you see pictures like this in Chapel Street, South Yarra, one of the most well-known parts of Melbourne. Anyone from all around Australia, if you visit Melbourne, you go to Chapel Street, and to see this building have collapsed the way it has and the damage that this earthquake has caused, it almost casts your mind back to those terrible scenes in Christchurch. And we're just hoping at this stage, because it's still sort of in the early periods as we see these pictures come in, that this is hopefully what the earthquake is confined to. The damage is confined to just this building, because we know that these things can cause a lot of damage and they can cause a lot of hurt. Yeah,
it is early days, and we did have a seismologist a little earlier on Today Extra who did say that these aftershocks will be felt for hours to come and possibly days to come, and they are frightening, and sometimes the aftershock can actually cause more damage than the initial quake. So people in and around Melbourne need to be prepared. They need to be on alert. The safest place to be is, of course, outside, away from a major structure. If you do have to be inside, then you should get underneath something which is quite sturdy. And there is some warning that we will hear some further aftershocks in the hours and even days to come. Let's go to Isabella Stashkovsky, who is on the ground there for us in South Yarra this morning. Isa, paint us a picture. What are you seeing?
Good morning. Well, you can see behind us, we're in the laneway coming off Chapel Street. This is a big building here. It's an old double brick, and it, as you can see, has collapsed. The power lines are down. There are bricks everywhere, and the crews here are assessing the damage, trying to figure out what to do next and how many buildings in the area have been affected. I can tell you that no one was downstairs at the business Betty Burgers below, but someone was in the apartments above. Luckily, they got out just in time, and we're hearing reports that no one has been injured at this point. I can also tell you that further down down the road. The Coles has been damaged, and I can tell you that also at least one regional hospital has been evacuated. But this morning, plenty of people did feel that tremor around 9:15 a.m. People are telling us that they felt their house is really shaking. Everyone's been texting each other, calling each other, making sure they're okay. And big crowds of locals have come out here to see the damage, to see what is occurring right now. We're going to bring in Ava and her mum, Kate. Ava, you felt the damage. Tell us, what did you feel?
So I was crossing the road with my mum, and I was on my bike, and I popped my feet down, and I kind of felt like a shake underneath me, but I didn't think it was like an earthquake, because I just thought it was a little shake underneath my feet.
So when, I guess, Mum might have told you it was an earthquake, what did you think?
I was shocked. I would never have thought it was an earthquake. Never in a million years.
Was it scary or was it a little bit cool?
I was a bit scared at first, but I wasn't too scared, because it wasn't like it was still happening. It was like it was over. So, but it kind of was cool seeing all the sirens and everything going across there.
And you guys have done what plenty of people out here have done this morning. You've come out and wanting to see what it looks like. Can you describe the scene for us this morning, Kate?
Yeah, sure. Look, it was really interesting. We were on our way to a doctor's appointment, so we were in the area, and we thought we'd just ride back around to see what had happened. We go to Betty's Burgers all the time, and it's one of Ava's favourites.
I do basketball sometimes just up there, which I haven't been able to do in a while, obviously. But we sometimes go down to Betty's Burgers across here, but that won't be happening in a while. But I'm just happy it's happening now instead of earlier, because I haven't been playing basketball at the moment, so which is
right. Very, very good timing for your basketball career. But yeah, the bricks are all down. I mean, this is a very popular area, big strip of shops. There's residential buildings around here too. I mean, lots of people out here this morning. It's pretty crazy scenes for a Wednesday morning.
It is very crazy for a Wednesday morning. Lucky we're on school holidays so we could see it all. But yes, there's been lots of people around, and we even went up to Coles before and saw the bricks down there as well. So yes, there's a lot of destruction. These older buildings, I think, are a little bit fragile, but just lucky no one was hurt.
Exactly right. Thanks so much for your time, guys, this morning. And I can tell you as well that there are plenty of people, just more and more, coming out trying to take some photographs. We know that vision has been circulating of this particular building on social media. But yeah, this all happened around 9:15 a.m. We were actually travelling in our crew car, and the whole crew car was shaking. I think that's the experience of most people across Melbourne this morning, but we're hearing reports that it's been felt right across Victoria and even into New South Wales. So a lot of work for these crews ahead. You can see they're still really working out what exactly to be doing, because of course they have to assess all the damage around here. There are old buildings here, and they just want to make sure that everyone is safe.
And Isa, talk us through what is going on the roads around there. I understand that is Chapel Street, where that main bit of damage is done. The road looks like it's closed behind you. What about the surrounding areas? How much of a disruption is this in Melbourne this morning?
Well, look, it certainly is a disruption. I mean, as you can see here, this is the rope where it's been cordoned off. This was actually much closer to the bricks earlier when we got here about an hour or so ago. They've been moving this further and further away because so many people are obviously wanting to come and see what it all looks like. Authorities are just trying to make sure that everyone around here is safe. The police are here, the council's here as well. They're going into kind of all the adjacent streets, just securing everything and making sure that people are okay, that no one is in these streets. We've seen another... he's asking again for people to be moving. Yeah, so the police officer here is moving people along, just worried about people's safety. But a number of cars are parked here as well. People have had to come and take those away. One car's still here as well. But these kind of cordons are off around this kind of area, around Chapel Street. Plenty of routes around here, so you can still get around. But the advice certainly from authorities would be not to come into this particular area. Although being locked down, not many people are travelling. Our streets have been a lot quieter at this point, of course.
OK, Isa, thank you. We will come back to you as the morning progresses for a further update. Meanwhile, a major police operation is underway on the other side of Melbourne, with protesters still marching. That is where we find Lana Murphy this morning. Lana, what is happening where you are?
Good morning. Well, we've actually just come across this subsection of protesters here along La Trobe Street. Right now we are turning left onto Russell. We were told this morning that they were going to gather outside the CFMEU headquarters at 10 a.m. sharp. but the police did not allow that to happen. We've been standing around, we've seen a few arrests take place, but it's been relatively calm and overrun by police until now. I don't know if you can see just down here on Russell Street, a group of about 100, 150 tradespeople, people wearing fluorescent clothing have now gathered. They're moving through the city streets and they are collecting supporters as they go. We're at the back of the group here and we're just going to cross the road safely now. We're at the back of the group here, and if you can see on my right, the police, the public order response teams, their bobcats are just moving in. The police are only now catching up.
We certainly can see that, Lana. And what are police doing at the moment? Do you think they're trying to sort of rein in this this group? What can you see on the ground there in terms of police involvement?
They are scrambling. We know that there were hundreds of cars gathered at the corner of Elizabeth and Victoria, but that's not where I am right now. So I'll get you to have a look around here behind me. We've got about a dozen public order response vehicles, and it is literally a game of cat and mouse once again for the third day in a row. They're chasing these protesters. Right now they're going the wrong direction, and we're actually moving back to where the riot squad was originally placed, but now a lot of those riot squad officers are in these cars moving away from the protesters.
And Isa, police did say they would be taking a much tougher approach with these protesters today. Yesterday we saw they kind of let them go. They let them walk through the streets. They let them go to State Parliament. They let them go to the Westgate Freeway. Today they said they would be taking a much firmer stance because they do not want to see a repeat of those protests for a third possible day. Is there any idea of who these protesters are? I know they're dressed, they're in high vis, and I know it's difficult for you to ascertain on the ground exactly who they are, but any hints as to who this group actually is?
There is no doubt that a percentage of this group are tradesmen, if not members from the CFMEU. They have shown us their ID. They've literally come off work sites. There is a proportion, though, that the Chief Commissioner says are professional protesters. So we've got people who are part of that far-right political group, people that are aligned with the freedom rallies that we've seen consistently over the last few days, in the last few weeks. The same faces keep popping up. Many of the people arrested yesterday, there was 62 out of the 2,000 people here who were arrested. Some of them are part of that freedom rally. They're far-right activists that are campaigning to sack Dan Andrews against mandatory vaccinations. They've, I suppose, merged with the union rally here. The union tells us that they believe that the entire rally has been hijacked by these people, but there is no doubt a mix of both of them. You're right in saying that police said that they were going to increase their response today. We saw yesterday it was mayhem and there was no controlling them. We saw people on motorbikes doing loops around highway patrol vehicles. The Chief Commissioner said this morning that that was not going to happen, but it's hard to believe now that they're running riot just towards Lygon Street.
Yeah, so tell us where you started off. You've covered a bit of ground since we first started talking to you, Lana. Tell us where you started off, where you are now, and where you think the protesters are going. What's their plan?
I certainly need to get to the gym, so I apologise for my puffed out voice here, but we have done quite a few kilometres, and you can see that cops are following. They're doing the same trail that we did. So we started at the corner of Victoria and Elizabeth, just 2 blocks down here to the left. At no stage did we actually see the protesters. You can see they're moving in. I'm just going to let them pass through traffic here. At no stage did we actually see those police officers surround this group of protesters. They've come from somewhere else. So every street leading into the CFMEU headquarters was blocked off. They had it cordoned off. So instead, these protesters have decided to gather elsewhere and then come through the city somewhat undetected. That's why you see officers now scrambling. I would estimate there's about 15 riot squad vehicles here. We've got the caravan as well, which is where they often take them when they are arrested. There's the Bobcat up ahead, and all of these police are heavily armed. These are a lot of the officers that we did not see on Saturday. There was a lot of talk about how uniformed duty officers were there on the front line. Well, these are the people that are specially trained to do this. They have pepper bullets, they have every weapon under the sun, and the Chief Commissioner said they will have no hesitation to use it today.
Yeah, we did hear those very firm words this morning, Lana, from the police chief. Looks like that is the riot police, and they are gearing up. They are ready to move in on this group pretty swiftly. Where are they going now, and where are the protesters? What is the distance? Talk us through that.
The police are parking right in front of us here at the intersection of Victoria Street and Russell Street, but it quickly turns into Lygon. For anyone who's not in Melbourne, this is the Little Italy of Melbourne, and we can see them right now. They're actually walking straight down towards Lygon Street, and they're being tailed by those public order response officers. So we're just talking a couple of square kilometres here. It's not actually a really large section of Melbourne. It's just on the outskirts of our CBD here. They're not really getting far, but they're getting away. That's the trick here. I don't know why the police... Oh, and they're running here. They're running back to us now. So we've obviously got the air wing up in the air who's keeping a pretty close eye on the protesters on the ground. That's why we see the officers moving around and constantly changing their position. We know that they try to get that one step ahead of the protesters. It looks like they're all about to get in their vehicles now again. Yeah, some of them are getting back in their vehicles and it looks like they're going to move. So they're obviously following those protesters as they move further north through the city.
And Lana, it looks like, I mean, these roads where you are, they have not been closed. This is just general traffic flowing as they would normally on a normal day in Melbourne. So this is certainly seems like it is protest action that has sprung up without police having any prior warning, any prior intelligence of where it was happening, because the cars are just going through as if it's a normal day.
I'll just show you around. So here we are at one of the intersections on Victoria Street. If you look down to the left here, I'm just going to get my cameraman to show me, you can see a flashing highway patrol vehicle down the bottom there. That's actually where there were 300, I would estimate, police officers there today. We had the riot squad and the mounted branch, and there was absolutely no way for anyone to make it through those walls of police. They were picking off protesters one by one, and it looked like they had a handle on it. So here we are, just 2 blocks up, and you can see the scene unfolding right in front of us. You can see traffic is moving through right now, and I'm sure you can hear the sirens in the background. Have a look over here. We've got the riot squad doing U-turns, moving through moving traffic just to get a grip. Now they're on the wrong side. They're going into oncoming traffic. Look over here. They're going into oncoming traffic. Every other car on the road has been forced to move over as police try and get a grip on this group of protesters that is just continually growing.
Certainly does not look like police have the upper hand on this situation. Lana, we'll leave you there for now, but don't go too far. We are going to have a look at where Christina Hearn is at the moment. She is among the protesters. Chris, what is happening where you are? Where are the protesters heading?
Lizzie, we're just marching with the second group of protesters. We've been following them all around the city, and now we're going up Swanston Street. You can see, I do apologise for the language once again. They are very fired up, and unfortunately, unfortunately at the media as well. They're up. I'm okay. I'm okay. There's look, we're not going to be intimidated. We're just going to keep on giving you what is happening here. This is a second group of protesters. Thank you. There's a second group of protesters. They've been following all around the city. They're now marching up Swanston Street. I'm hearing them say, keep moving away from the police, because there are some police following us. Police were determined for this not to be another game of cat and mouse, but it's exactly what it's turned into again. We've done several loops now of the city, just like we did yesterday, and we're doing it again. So we're just walking up Swanston Street now, and the police are on foot. There's about a dozen of them behind me that I can see. Police cars as well, just following them. So we don't know where they're going to end up, but the one thing I did hear is that they keep on saying, keep on moving, don't let the police catch us. So I think that is their tactic news today. And as you can see, once again, they're quite fired up.
Yeah, they certainly are, Chris, and you just stay safe where you are, as safe as you can.